The St. Louis Blues have traded Vladimir Tarasenko. We'll discuss his legacy and where the Blues go from here next on the Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We want to thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On today to get started. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Blues, Josh Hyman. And Josh, the big trade, Vladimir Tarasenko from the Blues to the Blue Shirts, the end of an era in St. Louis. Talk to me first about the legacy of Vladimir Tarasenko in St. Louis. What did he mean to this team? And 10 years from now, 20 years from now, how will he be remembered in St. Louis?
Yeah, I mean, he's an incredible player, not just incredibly fun to watch and, has one of the deadliest wrist shots in the league. You just look at the numbers too. I believe he's top 5 in franchise goals, top 5 in points, 3rd in game winning goals. It's just, you're looking at Blues leaderboards for, like you said, 10, 20 years to come, and maybe he'll bump down a few spots, but he's going to be in those top 10s for a long time. He's going to be his jersey's going to stay up on my wall for a long time. He's gonna be a memorable player. He helped lead the Blues to their first ever Stanley Cup, and was great in that playoff series. Bounced back from multiple shoulder surgeries. He's a very iconic player, and you could argue that he's been the face of the team for almost a decade now, or had been the face of the team. Got to get used to using the past tense there. It's gonna be a long time before I think his name is forgotten, if ever, in terms of his Blues legacy.
Is there one moment, if you were to pick one moment for the Vladimir Tarasenko best moment as a Blue, what would it be?
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy. It's going to be, anyone that's seen a SportsCenter top 10 has probably seen the goal that I'm talking about. And funny enough, it happened against the New York Rangers at Madison Square Garden. I want to say it's like 2014, 2015. So still early on in his career. Picks the puck up in his own defensive zone, cuts through the neutral zone, splits 2 defenders like it's nothing, and then does the one-handed Forsberg tuck-in goal. And it was just like, from then on, it was like, all right, he's just making a name for himself in the league, but he's going to be special. And, you can't go anywhere without watching that goal replayed if you watch enough highlights. And that's always, that's maybe my favorite regular season goal in Blues history. And it's going to be hard to beat. Yeah, for sure.
As far as the trade is concerned, how do you feel about what the team got back in this deal?
On the surface, it might seem a little underwhelming, but you look at the facts. You look at the fact that he had a full no trade clause, and you look back at the last time a player similar of his caliber was traded with a full no trade clause, and that was Taylor Hall to the Boston Bruins, and all he fetched was a Anders Bjork, who was a bottom 6 player and a 2nd round pick. So Blues end up getting themselves a 1st round pick, a prospect, a 4th round pick, and a familiar face in Sammy Blais. So just quantity wise, it's great. I think. It's above what I expected. Obviously, you see some of the other trades that happen and you're hoping for A-list prospects and 1st round picks. But at the end of the day, the draft coming up is pretty stacked and the Blues are notoriously pretty good with their 1st round picks. So I like that. And then, like I said, Sammy Blais, a familiar face who was having a lot of trouble with the Rangers, kind of assimilating, hadn't scored a goal with them at all. So coming back to St. Louis, he's talked about how excited he is, how much he loved it here. So I think that's great as well, just chemistry wise. I think getting, a familiar face back is going to ease the pain of losing someone as important as Vladdy in terms of the locker room goes. So I'm a big fan of the return. Obviously, when am I not going to say I wish it could have been more? Because you always wish it could have been more, but I think it was a very good return.
So Vladimir Tarasenko is gone. That obviously is sort of the end of an era in St. Louis. The team is more or less admitting, they're not going to make the playoffs this year, most likely. What do you see happening in the next 3 weeks leading up until the trade deadline? Where does the team go from here?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to overlook, but in the Vladimir Tarasenko trade, they also got rid of a solid defenseman in Nico Mikkola, who was playing top, obviously top 6 minutes throughout the whole year. Was one of their starters at times, been on the top pairing. So, and the defense has been in need of a lot of work this season. So the Blues trading away a defenseman is like exactly what you said, saying we're kind of admitting this season's going to be a punt, and we're looking ahead at the draft. And Nico Mikko was on an expiring deal. Vladimir Tarasenko was on an expiring deal. But then you look at the rest of the Blues roster, you have their captain, Ryan O'Reilly, on an expiring deal. Another bottom six, middle six guy, Nola Chari, on an expiring deal. And then 20-plus goal scorer last year, Ivan Barbashev, also on an expiring deal. So the Blues could be moving a lot of familiar faces in the next few weeks. I think I said this yesterday in sort of the quick reaction we did. I think this is the first domino to fall. Maybe O'Reilly stays, but those other guys, I think there's no reason the Blues are going to keep them, especially as you get closer to the deadline, asking prices go up. I think the Blues are going to do everything in their power to stack the cupboard of draft picks and prospects, whether that means they're going into a full rebuild and using those picks to draft and develop players, or trading those picks. Last time the Blues had 2 first-round picks, they traded for Braden Shen and drafted Robert Thomas within 30 minutes of one another. So I'm hoping we get some sort of a similar approach where they're using half of their assets to kind of retool so they're not at the bottom of the league for a long time, but also using their first round picks to pick some players that'll hopefully, turn into impact guys a couple of years down the road.
Talk to me about Jordan Binnington. Where does he stand now? And is he part of the long-term future of this team?
Look, it's a tough year for Jordan Binnington. Objectively, I think this is the best full regular season he's had with the St. Louis Blues, obviously besides the one where he came up midway through. It's just tough because the team this year is kind of just checked out. As much as it pains me to say, the effort isn't there. And I think he's one of the guys on the team that is putting in the most in terms of effort and passion. And as much as his numbers and his statistics won't show, he has been very solid up until this point. He's prone in years past to just have 2-week, 3-week long stretches where he plays at a very much below replacement level and is almost unusable out there. And we haven't seen that from him this year. He has not. He stumbled like once, but that was only for like 2 or 3 games, much shorter than what's usually expected out of him. So if anything, this season's proven that he can be at least an average goaltender at the NHL level. But at the same time, I'm curious to see if, a year down the road, 2 years down the road, when the Blues are a little bit more competitive, if he's able to play with this consistency again, I think he'll prove to a lot of people, Blues fans included, that maybe aren't the biggest fan of his contract, that he is worth keeping around as the starting goalie. And at the same time, the Blues have a lot of goaltenders in their prospect cupboard, especially some pretty good looking guys. So who knows what their plans are there? I don't think Binnington's going anywhere anytime soon, though.
And who do you think this team is going to build around going forward?
I mean, that's an easy one. Over the offseason, they gave out 2 identical extensions to their 2 young studs, Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas, both of which are 1 and 2 in points for the Blues this year. I think that's something that's kind of gone under the radar. As much as this season's been disappointing, both of them have shown up and have taken that next step that you would expect out of guys that you just gave a long-term deal to, becoming both the highest paid players in Blues history. You would hope that they had a big season. And as much as I think they would be doing better if, like I said, the rest of the team was producing more as well, the fact that they're both around point per game is very exciting. And if the Blues, sort of transition to more of the skill-based game that Kyrou and Thomas bring, I think they're going to thrive for a long time in this system.
Josh, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find you on social media and where they could find the podcast?
Sure. So Locked On Blues, wherever you get your podcasts. YouTube as well, getting close to 600 subscribers there. So that's fun. Locked On Blues, at Locked On Blues on Instagram, Twitter, and now TikTok as well. And you can find me on Twitter at Josh Hyman NHL, JoshHyman NHL. Look forward to seeing you there.
All right, Josh, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us today.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Today's episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens. Why do I start taking AG1? Well, I started taking it because I wanted to find one supplement that would meet all my nutritional needs. What is this stuff? Well, with one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All these things. And it's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop and a cup of water every day, and that's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.